You ever notice how your outlook on life and what really matters starts to shift as the years go by? Things you once thought were essential, like always staying in touch with a big group of friends, showing up at social events, constantly surrounding yourself with people, just don't hold the same weight anymore as you get older. Here's something that might sound a little strange at first. After 70, you honestly don't need friends the way you used to. I know you might be thinking, wait, what? But when you really look at it, embracing independence and focusing on your own well-being might actually be one of the smartest choices you'll ever make at this stage in life. Trying to keep up socially or maintaining relationships that take more than they give can start to feel more like a burden than a joy. What starts to matter more? Your peace, your inner world, your health? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. 6 solid reasons why friendships might not be as necessary in your later years. You'll see how your mind, your freedom, and even your physical health can improve when you stop clinging to relationships that no longer serve you. Just to be clear, this isn't about isolating yourself or shutting people out. It's about learning to live life on your own terms, free from social obligations and other people's expectations. Stick with us till the end, because you might be surprised to discover that letting go of the pressure to maintain friendships won't just set you free, it might also help you see yourself and this stage of life in a whole new light. Reason pound 1, second, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. One of the most freeing things about this stage of life, whether you realize it or not, is that you no longer have to prove anything to anyone. If you're past 70, you've already lived through decades of striving, pushing, and trying to fit in socially. You've experienced enough to know that the pressure to impress people, belong to certain circles, or be seen as the right kind of person just isn't worth it anymore. Think about it. When you're younger, most relationships revolve around being liked, being accepted, being part of something. You try to fit the mold, play the part, say the right things. You chase approval at work, show up in social scenes, stay visible on social media, because deep down you want to be seen and validated. But now, that chapter's closed. You've already built your life. You're a full person with memories, wins, losses, and everything in between. What others think, it just doesn't carry the same weight anymore. True contentment doesn't come from being noticed, it comes from inner peace. And that, my friend, is something only you can give yourself. Take Harold, for example. He spent most of his life climbing the corporate ladder. His days were full of colleagues, professional connections, and casual social ties. But once he retired, something happened. Those friendships quietly faded away, because most of them were built on convenience, not true connection. At first, Harold felt unsettled. Did I do something wrong? He wondered, but then he had a moment of clarity. Why am I holding on to relationships that only existed out of habit or obligation? That was the shift. He stopped trying to please others. Instead, he started spending time with himself, diving back into old hobbies, reading, walking, enjoying the quiet. No more forced conversations. No more social obligations. And for the first time in a long time, he felt free, and that's the heart of it. Once you stop needing approval from others, you realize just how draining some friendships have become. Not because people are bad, but because the connection just isn't real anymore. It's not helping you grow, it's just wearing you out. At this point, you don't need a social circle to boost your status or earn respect. You've already earned it by living, learning, and becoming who you are. You know what you want, what you don't, and that's self-knowledge. That's real power, because now you don't owe anyone an explanation. You can finally put yourself at the center of your own life. And that right there is true freedom. And it's exactly why friendships just don't carry the same weight after 70. Reason pound 2, freeze becomes more valuable than people. As you get older, something starts to shift quietly inside. One of the biggest changes, peace slowly starts to replace the need to constantly be social. Back in the day, being surrounded by people, catching up with friends, going to events, keeping your calendar full, felt like the definition of a well-lived life. If you weren't laughing around a busy dinner table or chatting with a group, something felt missing. But over time, you realize something else holds real value: stillness, and not just silence for the sake of silence, but the kind that genuinely relaxes you, the kind that clears your head, quiets the noise, and gives your spirit room to breathe. It's the peace that comes from stepping away from the drama, the gossip, the I should go just to be polite type of hangouts. You start to simplify your life, and in that simplification, you open the door wide to real inner calm. Because let's be honest, even the best friendships come with some level of responsibility. Attending calls, saying yes to invitations, responding to texts even when you don't feel like talking. There's no bad intent behind any of it, but after a while you catch yourself thinking, do I actually want this, or am I just doing it out of habit? At this point in your life, your time is your most precious asset, and how you spend it, that's up to you. No one has the right to expect your constant availability. You don't have to live your life on someone else's schedule anymore. It's time to move to the beat of your own rhythm. Take Margaret, for example. She's 74 and used to have a packed social calendar, dinners, parties, holiday get-togethers. She was always on the go, but eventually she realized something had changed. The gatherings that once gave her energy now left her feeling drained. The conversations felt repetitive. The complaints, the small talk, the same old stories. The joy was gone. Friendships started to feel more like chores. Then one day, Margaret made a choice. She stopped feeling guilty for saying no. She gave herself permission to let calls go unanswered. She chose stillness. And in doing so, she realized something important. Being alone isn't something to fear. It can actually be incredibly peaceful. She started carving out more time for herself, long walks, more time in nature, finally diving into those books she'd been meaning to read for years. And for the first time in a long time, she felt a deep calm in the idea of being alone, not lonely, just content. That's one of the hidden blessings of aging. You no longer need to fill your days just to feel fulfilled. You don't need approval or applause. You're totally okay in your own company. And that peace, it's not out there, it's inside. You stop tolerating chaos, and you start protecting your calm. You tune out the crowd so you can actually hear yourself. So if you've ever felt guilty for pulling back socially, let this be your reminder. It's not avoidance, it's wisdom. You're not checking out of life. You're just choosing a version of life that's closer to who you truly are. And believe me, that kind of peace, it only gets richer with age. If anything we've said here has hit home, drop a reason pound 2 in the comments so we know you're with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. There's a lot more where this came from. Ready to keep going. Reason pound 3. Fewer friendships, fewer disappointments. Life has a way of teaching us certain truths. Some of them hit hard, and one of the toughest lessons. Not everyone you once called a friend is really there for you. Over time, you start to notice it. People who used to be close quietly drift away. The ones you thought would show up in your hardest moments. Some stick around only when it's convenient for them. Others just stop trying altogether while you're the one doing all the work. Sound familiar? By the time you hit 70, this becomes crystal clear. Having a big social circle isn't always a win. It can actually bring a whole lot of emotional baggage. More people means more expectations, and more expectations often lead to more disappointment. The truth is, life feels lighter when you invest your energy into a few meaningful relationships instead of spreading yourself thin just to maintain appearances. Think about it. You call someone and they don't call back. You reach out and they ghost you. You want to talk and they just talk about themselves. Friendships like that, they're not mutual. They drain you. And let's be honest, at this stage in life, who needs that kind of stress? That's where William's story comes in. He's 78 now and has had countless friendships throughout his life. Some faded naturally, some he tried to keep alive by putting in all the effort himself, but eventually he realized something. He was the only one holding those relationships together. People who used to matter suddenly got too busy or acted like he didn't exist. At first, it hurt. He blamed himself. Did I do something wrong? He wondered, but then it hit him. He didn't do anything wrong. He just stopped carrying the weight of one-sided friendships. That's the real turning point. Realizing that more friends doesn't mean more happiness. In fact, it often means more expectations, more letdowns, more emotional fatigue. You don't need a long list of names. You need a few people who genuinely bring peace into your life. And sometimes that person is just you. So now, you stop chasing quantity and start choosing quality. You spend time with those who feel good to be around, not because you should, but because you want to. Maybe that's a family member, maybe it's a lifelong friend, or maybe it's simply your own inner calm. The important thing is that these connections nourish you instead of draining you. And no, this isn't isolating, it's simplifying. It's about cutting through the noise and building a life that actually feels good. No guilt, no drama, just clarity. So if lately you've been feeling like some friendships are stressing you out more than they're lifting you up, don't feel bad. Pulling back isn't quitting, it's wisdom. Happiness doesn't come from how many people surround you. It comes from how seen, heard, and respected you feel by the ones who do. Everything else, just noise, and the older you get, the easier it becomes to let it go. Reason pound 4 so your time is now your most valuable treasure. When you're younger, it feels like time is endless. Mornings stretch forever, weeks crawl by, and the years seem like they'll never run out. You fill your days with social plans, long chats, constant check-ins, and honestly, you don't think twice about it. Time feels like it'll always be there, but as you get older, that changes. One day you wake up and it hits you. Every single day matters now. Time stops feeling unlimited and starts to feel like something sacred, something you want to spend with care, not waste out of habit. Once you're past 70, this shift becomes real. You start to see every hour as a piece of your life, not just time to kill. So naturally, you get more selective about how you use it and who you give it to. Now, don't get me wrong, friendships can be beautiful, but let's be honest, they take time and energy. The calls, the visits, the catch-ups. Some relationships are worth every second. Others, they're just leftovers from the past, ones you keep out of habit, not because they actually bring you joy. And that's when you start asking yourself the real questions. Do I really want to spend my time like this? Does this relationship actually add something to my life? Or is it just another obligation? Richard's a great example of that shift. In his 80s now, he used to be the guy who was always out, dinner parties, phone calls, events left and right. He was constantly on the move, always connected. But over time, he noticed something. What used to energize him started to drain him. Conversations felt repetitive. Hangouts lost their spark. Socializing began to feel like a task, not something to look forward to. Then one afternoon at lunch, sitting through yet another round of small talk and complaints, he asked himself, why am I here? What am I actually getting from this? And that was it. Richard decided to stop saying yes out of politeness. If something didn't feel right, he didn't force it. He quit spending his hours listening to stories he'd already heard and turned that time back toward himself. He took walks. He reconnected with nature. He read books he'd been putting off for years. He learned new things, and most importantly, he didn't feel like he was missing anything. In fact, he felt fuller than ever, because for the first time in a long while, he was living life on his terms, not anyone else's expectations, and that's the real win. Now he chooses how to spend his time, who to give it to, what to put energy into, and here's the best part. He doesn't owe anyone an explanation, so if you ever find yourself wondering whether to keep a friendship going, just ask yourself, this is actually making my life better, or am I just keeping it alive out of routine? Because at this stage of life, you don't owe your time to anyone. You've earned the right to protect your peace. You get to decide what fits your rhythm and what doesn't. And when you finally give yourself permission to do that, life becomes simpler, lighter, and surprisingly full. If anything in this section speaks to you, drop a reason pound 4 in the comments too. Let us know you're still with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now. There's more calm, meaningful content on the way. Now let's keep going. Reason pound 5, true companionship starts within. One of the biggest myths about growing older, that you need to be surrounded by tons of people to feel happy. Big family dinners, a buzzing phone full of messages, a calendar packed with plans. That's what society tells us happiness looks like. But the truth, the most meaningful, most fulfilling relationship you'll ever have isn't with anyone out there. It's with yourself. By the time you hit 70, you've lived through so much. You've grown, changed, adapted, evolved. And when you really look back, you realize no one knows you better than you do. Not your parents, not your partner, not even your kids. Self-understanding is one of the most powerful gifts age gives you. And when you tap into that, you start to see something clearly. You don't need a crowd to feel complete. You are enough as you are. We're often taught that happiness comes from being social, that being alone is something to fear. People say, don't isolate yourself, go out, meet people, stay connected. But that mindset blurs two very different things. Being alone vs feeling lonely. You can be in a room full of people and feel completely disconnected, or sit quietly by yourself and feel deeply at peace. It's exactly what happened to Eleanor. At 76, she had spent most of her life chasing connection. She made plans, kept in touch with friends, filled her days with activities. But despite all that effort, she kept feeling drained and oddly unsatisfied. Then it hit her. Most of her friendships weren't built on real connection. They were just habits, relationships she kept going to appear social, not because they were meaningful. And worse, she realized she was constantly changing herself just to fit in. She'd push through exhaustion, fake smiles, and forced conversations just to avoid feeling left out. One day, she flipped the script. Instead of asking, who should I call today, she asked, what do I want to do today? She started spending time with herself like she would with a good friend, doing things she loved, listening to her thoughts, enjoying the stillness. She stopped forcing small talk. She sat at cafes with a book instead of pretending to care about empty chatter, and in that quiet, something amazing happened. She realized that the companionship she'd been looking for was already inside her, and the best part, once she found that peace, the right people naturally showed up in her life. She didn't have to chase them. The ones who respected her energy, who understood her rhythm, they just fit. When you're grounded in yourself, you attract relationships that don't feel like work. So if you're afraid that stepping back from friendships might leave you feeling lonely, remember this. Your greatest companion is already with you. Truly okay in your own presence. Everything else becomes a bonus, not a necessity. That's real freedom. Not needing someone else to complete you, because you already feel whole on your own. Reason pound 6 of letting go leads to a more fulfilling life. One of the boldest and most transformative Things you can do after 70 is this: let go. And no, we're not talking about giving up. We're talking about making space. Space for the things that truly matter. Letting go of friendships that drain you, relationships that only exist out of habit, the pressure to be socially visible all the time. And maybe most importantly, the belief that being alone means being unhappy. Here's the thing, most people hold on to relationships long after they've stopped feeling right. They keep showing up to events they don't enjoy, answering calls they don't have the energy for, all because of guilt, routine, or the fear of what others might think. It's just how it's always been. I don't want to seem rude, what will people say? But the truth is, no one said you have to stay in the same social circle forever, and you don't need to constantly prove yourself to anyone. So what happens if you do let go? Do you lose something or do you actually gain? James has the answer in his late 70s. James used to believe that a busy social life was the secret to aging well. He kept in touch with old friends, said yes to every invite, and kept his schedule packed. He was proud of how active he was. But eventually something shifted. The conversations started to feel shallow. The gatherings felt repetitive. Underneath it all, he felt exhausted. Then one day he paused, looked in the mirror and asked himself, am I actually enjoying this? The answer was a clear no, so he made a change. He stopped forcing connections that didn't feel meaningful. Instead, he focused on what truly brought him joy. Morning walks, time in nature, learning something new. Most importantly, he started living by his own rhythm, not someone else's expectations. Number of can pass it. What happened? He felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted mentally, emotionally, physically. That's the beauty of letting go. It's not about closing yourself off from the world. It's about filtering out the noise and tuning into what truly feeds your soul. Your happiness doesn't come from the number of people around you, it comes from how real your life feels. And once you realize that, everything starts to shift. You stop asking, who do I have in my life? And start asking, what's actually making my life better? You savor quiet mornings. You find joy in the little things, like sipping your tea without rush or getting lost in a hobby with no pressure. You make peace with your own thoughts, because real happiness doesn't live in friendships that feel like chores. It lives in the moments that feel like you. So if you're holding on to a relationship just because it's familiar, ask yourself, does this still serve me? Or am I just carrying the weight of years gone by? When you give yourself permission to let go, life becomes lighter, simpler, and far more rewarding than you ever expected. Peace shows up where you least expect it. And joy finds you in the quietest of moments. If you're still here and this message hit home, leave a comment with reason #62. Let us know you're with us. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that button and turn on notifications. Because more peace, more clarity, and more inspiration is just around the corner. Final thoughts. As we wrap up this video, I'd like to ask you for one small thing. Take a moment to reflect on what we've talked about today. Saying you might not need friends after 70 doesn't mean you're destined to be alone. Quite the opposite, it means there's a freer, simpler, more authentic way to live. It's not about what others expect from you anymore. It's about tuning into what you truly need. As you've seen, stepping away from friendships that drain you isn't a loss, it's a gain. It gives you back your time, your energy, your peace. It makes room for you to just be in that kind of space. It's where real peace starts to grow. So think about it. Out of the 6 reasons we talked about, which one hit you the hardest? Did any of them make you stop and say, yeah, that's exactly how I feel? Maybe you've already started letting go of what no longer serves you. Maybe some friendships have started to feel more like effort than joy. Or maybe, thanks to this video, you're realizing for the first time that putting yourself first isn't selfish. It's one of the healthiest choices you can make. Whatever you're feeling, we'd love to hear it. Drop a comment below and share the insight that spoke to you the most and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts really do matter to us. We read every single comment and they give us the inspiration to keep going. If you found value in this video, if it made you feel seen, heard, or just a little bit lighter, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear this too. Your support helps us reach more people and keep creating content that informs and uplifts. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.